The Boston Bruins get a massive win against the St. Louis Blues, and this game had massive implications on what this team will look like going forward. I'm going to break down this game, talking about how this was a real big win for the Bruins in this situation and why they needed this in this very moment, as well as many quotes from the team on a different outlook for the rest of the season. Now, before we get into it, we hit 5,000 subscribers, you guys. We have done it. We're on the road to 6K now, but your support has been absolutely incredible lately. I do appreciate every single one of you guys who have hit the sub button. And once again, all your spot for the Boston Bruins news is right here, so make sure to hit the sub button if you're looking for it every day. But we need to get in this game. Once again, this was the perfect game once we've seen the outcome for the Boston Bruins. Obviously, it was a shaky start, going down 2-0 going into the third period, but coming out with a 3-2 win, we saw some real good looks from this team and really describing why they were not going to lose this game. And going into it first, we're going to pull up our screenshot with the stat card, whatever it's called. I want to pull this one up first, kind of going over everything that we've seen here from top to bottom. As you can see, a lot of positive outcome on the offensive side and the defensive side of things. Now, even though they were going down 2-0 going into the third, we saw this game become a real come-together game for the Boston Bruins. I guess is a good way of describing it. We've seen this team finally find something, finally click in this third period. Obviously, the penalties were still a bit of an issue, and that's one thing that needs to be cleaned up if they want to find the success they had in this third period going forward. But being able to see what we saw here, see in this game that this team is looking for wins as a team, knowing that what they're in right now, the situation they're in right now, is going to get better. And that was the perfect example today here, or last night, sorry, of what we were looking for in a team. And I do have multiple quotes here, so I'm going to get into our first one, looking at from Charlie McAvoy. So there's a couple times throughout a year where, you win a game like this or something like this happens, you come back and find a way like we did tonight, and you can really build off those. So you got to earn them. And we did that tonight and got to do it right, do the right things moving forward. But this could definitely spark something. And this was in kind of a discussion with Hampus Lindholm going down, having 5 defense for quite a bit of the game, and pulling out the win on 5 defense in the unlikeliest of situations. This is the opportunity where teams really start to gel like this. Teams really start to find their rhythm, start to find everything they're looking for in this situation, in games like this where, against all odds, you come back and win the game, and these are what brings locker rooms closer together. Now, before we get into our next one, I do want to pull up the box score as well. As I mentioned, they weren't losing this game, and by they, I meant the top dogs of this team: David Pastrnak, Pavel Zacha, Charlie McAvoy, even Morgan Geekie, a guy on the first line who we really didn't think was going to have much of an impact on this game, really struggling, but seemed to find his feet once again. And Brad Marchand, the real top guys on this team, found their way back. They finally getting to a point where they're leading this team. And that's what we've been kind of lacking all season, is the leadership of the guys who are supposed to be leaders. The guys with the letters on their jerseys have really not seemed to be leading this team. But this game, that seemed to switch around. That seemed to finally come back to the Bruins' way, and finally seemed that these guys were actually going out for the win and putting everything on the line. And that's what the Bruins needed. As I mentioned, the sense of urgency, the sense of chemistry on this team has been lacking so much this season, and finally having this kind of switch around and come back to the way we did in this game was exactly what we needed. And Jim Montgomery had a few things to say here as well, and he said, "We talked about staying with it for 60 minutes and playing the right way. Even though we made a couple mistakes in the third, still, because you're going to make mistakes, it's a game of mistakes. We just keep battling." And Jim Montgomery was very pleased with this game from the quotes we've seen, and I obviously didn't put all of them in there because this would have been a whole video talking about what Jim Montgomery had to say, but I did take some of the most important ones away. And looking at these right here, right now, the way that he's describing this is kind of the same way the players have felt in this. David Pastrnak coming out after the game and saying that this was a good one. This is the way you want to feel after the game. This is the way that you need to win games. Especially, going down Hampus Lindholm, which is obviously a huge loss. He's been one of the most consistent players for the Bruins this season. Having this come out and, playing this way in his absence, and as I mentioned, kind of against the all odds is what it seemed like in this game. It's the way you want to see the Bruins come out of here. And looking at what Andrew Raycroft had to say, and kind of this is a pretty insane one to look at, the way that we've kind of been talking and discussing this team the past week or two. The Bruins are 4-1-1 in their last 6 games. 4 wins, 1 loss, and 1 overtime loss. And the fact that we're kind of feeling this way and looking at the record and kind of still not really confident with the team, this is a good sign going forward. Now, obviously, you want to feel better about the team, but the way that we started the season kind of limits how you can feel about it with an immediate reaction. But being 4-1-1 in the last 6 is definitely a good sign going forward. And the fact that we don't feel like that, the way that we don't feel like we're 4-1-1 in the past few games, it's just a good sign of the team starting to come together. I know it's kind of a string of weak teams, and this game especially, the Blues, being down in the standings where they are, not being the best team in the NHL, being without a few players, but still, a win is a win. And the way that you play in this game against all odds and being down a man will boost the momentum and boost the kind of the thought process going into more games this season and more games against tougher opponents. And that's what the Bruins needed. They needed something that will kind of push them along, push them down the road in a positive aspect, and kind of just go into this with a positive outcome and coming out with another even more positive outcome for this game. But going into our final quote here from Jim Montgomery, he said, Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak, I think they weren't going to let us lose tonight. You could just see it. They were stepping out on the ice with an elevated purpose in the third period, and that's what we needed from this. It's finally time that we saw the leadership of this team, the guys like Charlie McAvoy, David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, the leaders of this team, go out and just know that they need to control this team. They need to be the guys that don't let this team lose. They need to be the ones that go out and whatever they have to do, turn the tables in the Bruins' way. And we saw that in this game. And I'm very, very happy that we finally seen that, because it seems like we haven't been seeing that from the guys in this locker room for quite some time. It's been the fourth line that has really been kind of putting the advantage in the Bruins' way this season. And we've been just waiting for the moment that we saw David Pastrnak, Charlie McAvoy, those two in specific, Brad Marchand been heating up, but those two in specific were still kind of lacking, it seems like, this year, and we finally found that in this game against the Blues. And going into one more tweet here from Bruins Network, criticized Jim Montgomery earlier for giving Morgan Geekie top line minutes, but he's really good response out of his players tonight. Pastrnak was there when you needed him, and the rest of the forwards competed for pucks. Could be nice comeback to start building on them. I wanted to put this out there because I had this in mind as well. I didn't know how to put it into words that kind of made sense and without repeating myself or whatnot, but this is exactly what we kind of all wanted, what we all wanted to see out of this Bruins team. And the fact that Morgan Geekie, and I'm not saying that I didn't criticize him either, because that was definitely an interesting move that I kind of discussed on taking Poitras out, putting him in the AHL, putting Geekie in the first line. Didn't really make sense to me, but if we can see this Morgan Geekie going forward, and if we can see this Bruins team going forward, this is a good outcome. This is a good look on the Bruins and Jim Montgomery, and hopefully we do see this continuing to go forward. But that's all I got in this video. Let me know what you think about this Bruins game. Obviously, a big win. Not the greatest opponent, but it don't matter the opponent. The fact, the mindset going forward will be a positive one. And that's what the Bruins needed, was just a positive mindset going in and coming out of games. And hopefully that will spark something here tonight, last night going forward, and a big game tomorrow night once again that will really dictate the pace of this Bruins team going forward. But like I said, that's all I got. Let me know what you think. But your guys' support has been amazing lately. I do appreciate every single one of you guys. So if you did enjoy the video, give it a like, hit the sub button if you haven't already. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.